Hey everyone, I'm going to review this book today, Food for Life by Tim Spector, The New Science of Eating Well. It's amazing. It's the one book that I've read that has actually had a significant change on what I eat. And I disregard most stuff, because I think most stuff is nonsense. Most people are ill-informed. The news is mainly bullshit. A lot of the so-called studies out there are funded by food companies. So a good example here is this idea that you need to drink 8 litres of tap water a day, or 8 litres of water, sorry. Absolute bullshit. You drink if you're thirsty. But that helps companies to shift a lot of water, and guess what? Water is very cheap, but you can sell it very expensive. It doesn't make any sense to drink filtered water. This is coming from the book now, because filtered water is generally tap water that's been filtered, so any of the nutrients that were in there have been taken out. But guess what? If they can get somebody to pay £1, £2 for this much water that cost them half a penny, happy days. Anyway, what's the book about? The book is, there's tons of information in it. And before I start, actually, because it'll just, be like an avalanche, I don't want to do that. How does it change what I eat? Well, I eat less meat now. I eat a lot less overall, and I actually feel fuller. Wouldn't that be nice if you could eat less and feel more, feel hungry less often? I think the word I'm looking for is satiated. And obviously if you do that, you're going to lose weight, right? I spend less on food, which is good as well. I feel a lot healthier. I've lost a couple of kilos. I wasn't in bad shape to start with. I'm not a 300-pound pre-diabetic person who can't climb the stairs or anything. I was already in good shape, but I feel a lot better. I put that down to I recover from my workouts much faster. That's something that only occurred to me recently. But let's start with the book. So he started writing this. Tim Spector started writing this. I started thinking about food and how it affects health after a health scare related to his blood pressure in Italy somewhere, I think it was. And he's been doing it for a long time now. And he set up a company that does individualized profiles. We all react to food differently, so yes, the more you eat, the fatter you're going to get. And if you need to lose weight, the best thing is generally to eat less. But that's a very, very, blunt instrument. If you eat well and you understand food well, combined with exercise, that's probably the closest thing there is to, being able to live essentially forever. No, not forever, that's ridiculous. So a very healthy, long life. So a long life free of things like cancer, diabetes, heart disease and that. A lot of that comes down to the food you eat. So some common ideas about food, which is milk is good for the bones. It's probably more of a correlation than anything else. Milk has chemicals in it which can promote growth, which do speed up fertility. Bring out puberty faster and everything. And the Danes who drink a lot of milk are the tallest people in the world, but they also have the most fractures. Milk may also promote cancer growth. It promotes growth, generally cancer growth. But if you have yogurt instead of milk, you get all the benefits of drinking milk, but without the cancer promoting properties. Isn't that interesting? Yogurt, as a kind of superfood, was first cottoned onto as an idea by a guy called Ilya Menchin or something. He was working at the Pasteur Institute. This was about 1910, and it was probably originally eaten yogurt, by the way, either by Turks or the Polish, and it was just a way of enjoying milk for longer, because milk goes off. Then what you do with it? Throw it away? No, you could have yogurt, or you could have milk, or you could have cheese, right? Yogurt's a fermented food. Now, when you buy yogurt, it's generally, this is all from the book, buy full fat yogurt, because what they do with half fat or fat free, they've taken all the fat out, but then most of the nutrients come out, so then they put in emulsifiers and other things to make it taste the same, but it's actually not as good for you anyway. And how much fat is there in milk, for example, where yogurt comes from? 3%. So what's the point in losing all the nutrients or something to save a percentage and a half fat? But you reduce the fat by 50%, yeah, but think about the numbers, it was only 3% to start with, right? This is actually very relevant to global warming as well. This is the first cool day in about 3 weeks where I've been able to sit outside without thinking, God, it's too hot. Yeah, and it's September, it's nearly October, and the weather's finally bearable. And we didn't even have that longer summer this year. Plenty of floods that killed people and hurricanes that killed people around the world, though. We know about that, don't we? Storms. Being a vegan is probably the best thing you can do to reduce your carbon footprint. Now, I'm not a person who was ever for veganism. I think it's a fairly stupid idea in terms of being able to get all the nutrients you want. And actually, if you try to make everybody vegan, the amount of land required would have, let's say, implications. But if you take soybean as the base in terms of a food, and the base is how many calories does it provide, and how much CO2 or equivalents does it produce? Beef, for calories provided, is 73 times more polluting than soybeans. All right. The least polluting form of animal protein you can get. Sorry, I was interrupted there, but I'll try and carry on from where I was. So, yeah, beef 73 times more fattening, more polluting than soybeans. And do you really need to eat meat? Well, there's 2 billion people who never eat meat, and they're absolutely fine. Food for life. Let's stay on the meat thing at the moment. Chicken is 9 times more polluting in terms of carbon dioxide or other gases, pollutants, than soybeans. Eggs are 6. Fish, is fish the answer? Well, this is interesting. So fish farming, fish, bred, farmed in giant cages in the sea or whatever, because of the proximity in which they're farmed and everything else, it's now almost impossible to buy, for example, salmon anywhere that doesn't have salmon lice in it. It used to be incredibly rare, and then if they escape, they infect all the other populations as well. To feed 1 kilo of farmed fish takes between 1.5 and 3 kilos of wild fish, so actually you're depleting stores faster. In about 20 years we'll probably run out of fish. At the current rate there'll be no more fish left. What can you do to eat less polluted fish? You eat the smaller fish. So things like sardines, anchovies, they can be tinned, they last longer, it reduces waste. There were plans to have a fish farm near Glasgow, and it would have produced as much shit as the entire human population of Glasgow. So it's not unharmful to the environment. Prawn farming is another one. They just basically drag giant, like trawlers or something across the bottom of the ocean, pick up all the prawns they can, but of course in so doing they destroy the ocean floor for decades at a time. So it's a really interesting book. What's the result of it? Okay, so what's the good things you can do? Eating tomatoes, especially heated, has been shown to protect against cancer and actually increase the effectiveness of things like chemotherapy. How's my diet changed? I have my breakfast now, which is eggs. During the day I just eat nuts and fruits. That's about it. And after about the first day or two of doing that, I actually don't feel hungry anymore. In the evening it's a normal meal. Fermented food, yogurt, incredibly good for you. Kefir, which is good feelings I think in Turkish, but it's like fermented milk with some seeds put in it. What all that does is that leads to the growth. Fermented food has bacteria in it. We have more bacteria and stuff in our stomach than we have human cells. It's about 1.3 bugs per human cell. So we're more bug than we are human. And then blue zones is another thing that's mentioned in this book. Blue zones are places where it's not unusual to live to 100 and be free of disease. The only thing they have in common, so forget what you read in the newspapers, on the news, or some other idiotic diet book, they don't eat processed foods. That's all it is. So in Okinawa they eat a lot of seafood. Seaweed's really good for you, by the way. Anything green is good for you, right? The colours in vegetables and fruits come from polyphenols, which are very, very good for you. So there's actually only 1% of vegetables that we can eat. The rest are toxic to us. There's about 100,000 different types of mushrooms. They're not technically an animal or a plant, they're kind of in between, and fungus as well. Mushrooms, psilocybin, is it? The stuff in magic mushrooms, that's a very good cure for depression if used properly. The first recorded case of that in the West using magic mushrooms was in Green Park in 1799 or something. The family had some and then started giggling and being delirious. Alright, so yeah, they don't eat processed food. So all this nonsense about, oh, do you have to drink red wine to live long? Idiots. Because the Mediterraneans do and they live long, it's because they don't eat processed food. Same with the Okinawans, same with the Hunza people in northern Pakistan. This is probably the most disjointed book review ever. People seem to have to announce everything they're doing to me. Just get on with it. Yeah, amazing, incredible, excellent book. Lots of just interesting information there as well, like the validity of salt. We're often advised to reduce our salt intake to lower blood pressure. It lowers blood pressure by a teeny bit, but also it can very, very negatively impact the functioning of other organs. So, you know, not the best idea maybe. Obviously, you don't want to be having tablespoons of salt every day. The first town, now salt is so important to human history, the first town in Europe, in Bulgaria, Solnitsata, from 4500 before Christ, was founded on a salt mine. But I mean, there's tons of information in this book, and I could sit down and talk about it for half an hour, but I think 10 minutes is enough. I think if you want to be healthy, if you want to know about food, read this book. It's quite long. In the back, it's really interesting. They've got food tables. I'll just read you a bit of the stuff from the book. For example, we'll just say, not much on the back, inside back sleeve. Tim Spector is a professor of genetic epidemiology at King's College London and honorary consultant physician at Guy's and St Thomas's Hospital. He knows what he's doing. He's a multi-award winning expert in personalised medicine and the gut microbiome. These are the bugs that make up a large part of your immune system. If they're healthy, your immune system is healthier. Simple as that. Okay? And the author of 5 books, including the bestseller Spoon-Fed and Diet Myth. He appears regularly on TV, radio, and podcasts, who cares, and is one of the top 100 most cited scientists in the world. Ooh. He's co-founder of the personalized nutrition company Zoe, Z-O-E, and leads the world's biggest citizen health project, the Zoe Health Study. He was awarded an OBE in 2020 for his work fighting COVID-19. There he is. Read the book. Look, read the book, you'll be healthy for it. Simple as that. 10 out of 10.